Hi, everybody. Today we're going to be finishing this series on the faces of addiction, and I'll be talking a lot about something called caretaking addictions. I should be an expert on this one, so this should really be interesting. So we'll see what happens with it. But basically, starting next week, I'll be doing a special program next week on gratitude, humility, acceptance, and love. And we're going to be working our way into the holiday series with that. Okay, so we're going to have you along with us for that too. Okay, I want to begin today by doing today's reading. It was pretty good. Fits right into the caretaking thing of today's process. This above all to thyself be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not be false to any man. That's from William Shakespeare. To thine own self be true. A grounding statement for those of us who get caught up in the storm of needs and feelings of others. Listen to yourself. What do we want to do or say? What are our instincts telling us? Trust them. Either they'll make any sense or meet other people's rules and expectations. Sometimes the demands of other people and our confused expectation of ourselves, the message about our responsibilities towards others, can create a tremendous, complicated mess. We even convince ourselves that people-pleasing, going against our nature, and not being honest is the kind, honest thing to do. Sorry, not true. Simplify. Back to basics. Let go of the confusion. By honoring and respecting ourselves and be true to those around us, even if we have a tendency to displease them momentarily. To thy own self be true. Simple words describing a powerful task. They can put us back on track. Today I will honor, cherish, and love myself. When confused about what to do, I'll be true to myself. I'll break free of the hold others and their expectations have on me. I really want to do that reading, and I really got excited when I saw it this morning because it really does get into the whole concept of codependency and the whole concept of how the aspect of codependency works. But also it fits right into the format of caretaking and how we migrate towards addictions based around caretaking. And the major caretaking addictions, I just run through them. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, so I've done that before, but I want to talk about the foundation and the basics of where they come from. The basic caretaking addictions are, of course, drugs and alcohol, workaholism, relationship addictions, basically compulsive overeating is a big part of caretaking. And the other part is different forms of technology. Again, these are all ways to run, to hide, not to have to deal with ourselves or deal with the inside of each and every one of us. I've learned over the years that so many times in the course of my journey, taking care of somebody else is a lot of fun. That means you can run their life, do everything for them, you can function, you can do all kinds of things, but the biggest part is you never have to look at yourself. Isn't that amazing? I love that concept. Believe me, I'm an expert at it because I did it for 44 years, so I had a lot of practice in doing this one. But also what I learned is many of us in growing up were put into the roles very many times of what I call the responsible child. The child that many times has to function and basically has to really grow up too fast. I'll share a story about this to show you what I mean. I want to go to a family now, a mother, a father, and 3 boys. The mother was a typical caretaker, trying to take care of the family, enabling like crazy. The father was an alcoholic. He was really a kind of a mess. And the oldest son, it's interesting. Okay. Daddy many times wouldn't make it home at night because he used to stop at this thing called the local bar. They had a bar stool with his name on it. And so basically, mom, after a while, became as bad as dad because she kept fighting with him, battling with him, not being able to work things out. And she wanted him to be something that he couldn't be. She was determined to fix him. In doing so, her life became so entangled around him that the kids kind of fell in the background. So the oldest son decided I've had enough of this nonsense. Here's a kid now, 9 years old, had enough of this nonsense. I want to take care of my brothers. And so when daddy came home drunk, he would take money out of daddy's pocket and basically use it for lunch money for kids the next day. After a while, he was fundamentally running the house. Mom was obsessed with her husband, and he was obsessed with alcohol. And the two of them had become so obsessed with each other that the kids kind of floated in the background. And this all got discovered one time because they sent a note home for the parents to come to meet with the teachers and kind of get their report cards. The 9-year-old decided to go to the meeting, go around and visit the teachers to pick up her brother's report cards. Now, it's really interesting because he actually became the adult in the family. He got to such a point, and that point was centralized around a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, a lot of rejection, and feeling a lot of pain. And so what he did was he solved it by deciding, they won't do it, I'll do it. And he had to grow up like quickly. That responsible concept is really scary because many times as children, we basically are given opportunities to do things that maybe we're not ready to do. We're told to grow up real fast. We're taught to produce. But at the same time, very many times, we have to live up to what I refer to as the giant's expectations. I call the adults the giants. And as a result, then I have to constantly make them happy. And so many times, so many of us have lost our childhood. We never really had one. We were so busy, always kind of just being like a robot performing. Again, I'm really speaking about myself when I talk about this because I realize in growing up as a child, I never really had a childhood. My childhood was run by my mother, and basically I was trained to be whatever they wanted me to be. And again, I felt the obligation. I felt like I was responsible. I felt like I had to do what they told me to do. And so, yes, I lived up to their expectations. I never realized it till later on in my life, but I made major decisions in my life. Of course, I didn't really make them. They made them for me. But I went along and basically did what they told me to do. And as a result, then, I ended up in positions and things I didn't want to be in. But I did them anyway because I wanted to make everybody happy, please everybody, and make sure everything was okay. See, it's that responsible concept. I never understood this, but it meant you had no real sense of your own self, no real identity of who you really are. That's why I understand when they told me a long time ago when I was in the hospital that I was spiritually dead. That literally I was a shell. There was no real sense of me on the inside. And so really, in reality, it's almost like in order to survive, you freeze yourself, freeze your feelings, shut them off, and then you basically perform. And many of us as caretakers, and caretakers are really, really, really nice people. I refer to them as the goody two-shoes. The problem is we're too nice. People take advantage of us. They can manipulate us. They can use us. And as a result, then, very many times we have a tendency to migrate towards certain addictions for survival purposes. One of the ones in my own case was alcohol, even drugs, because now we understand, with very many of these caretaker addicts are people that are what I call the goody addicts, which means they do everything in secret behind closed doors. Nobody really knows what's going on. They're very good at keeping secrets. They use alcohol or drugs to sedate themselves, not to have to feel. I never truly understood this till later in my life when I realized that the one thing I was scared to death of, and many of us are scared of, is to have to get in touch with our feelings, to totally begin to realize the importance of getting in touch with what's going on inside of us. And it's scary because we're not used to this. And so it's a whole process we have to get in touch with. Believe me when I tell you, it's much easier to function on the outside, to produce. But basically what happens so many times, I have a tendency to want to control. I want to be able to take care of everything. And the bottom line is, I don't need any help. Many of us become loners, become isolated, and many of us have a tendency to really function well on the outside. But we're scared to death to let anybody get too close to us. So if they get too close to us, they're going to really get to know us. I don't know how to handle that. I'd rather be in charge. I'd rather run it my way. I'd rather be the boss. I'd rather be able to handle it. And so I learned a long time ago to function either as the family hero or function as the lost child. Just kind of getting through life, doing what I have to do to survive. And the family hero, means that you better come through for that family. Again, I can relate to this because my mother put me in the priesthood when I was 14 years old. It was her dream. It was our family dream. Everybody thought I was the cat's meow because I basically was going to go in the priesthood. Even the nuns, it was amazing. When I took the test to go into seminary in the 8th grade, when I passed the test, I went from a C student to an A student overnight. It's amazing, isn't it? Because now you're the most important person in the world. It got you a lot of attention. People paid attention to you. Even though in reality I was scared to death. Because I meant I had to go away from home. It meant I had to go out on my own. I had to begin to change my life again. But I learned, basically, that I can do anything I put my mind to it. So literally it comes down to the fact, this is what we want you to be. You are now an important part of this family. Isn't it amazing sometimes how you go from the bottom all of a sudden to the top? You don't even know why. But caretaking is a big part of it because people expect you to come through. They expect you to function. They expect you to be there for everybody. And now, later on in my life in the priesthood, I was trained very well in this caretaking modality. The biggest mantra I learned in the priesthood was, you must be all things to all people at all times. Now you tell me how you can be all things to all people at all times. It means you don't have a life. And so as a result then, you keep saying yes to things you don't really want to do. You say yes to them anyway, because expectations, things are expected of you. And so many people use caretaking as a survivor technique. Many families, the caretaker in the family many times gets taken advantage of, gets abused, is basically put down a lot, but they're used to it. So as a result then, they always come through. They're exhausted, they're tired. And if you ask them how they're doing, I love the way caretakers respond because we don't want to tell you how I'm really doing. So what do I say? I'm fine. Everything's wonderful. Everything's great. I don't have any problems. Yet in reality, I'm hurting like hell. Everything inside of me is falling apart. But I have this drive inside of me not to show it. Remember our definition of the word fine? It means I am frustrated, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. Frustrated, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. It means I'm really on a treadmill. I have no idea who I am. And as a result, then, literally, what am I doing? I'm avoiding, I'm running, I'm hiding. I'm doing everything possible not to have to feel and be in touch with feelings. It's amazing sometimes how you can be so angry at different situations in your life, and then you can bury the anger and shut the anger off. Because I don't want anybody to get upset. I don't want them not to like me. I don't want to get rejected. So I just perform. And it's sad to watch this because so many times this happens because we get our identity, who we are, what we're all about, by what we do. I said so many times, I told you some of these stories, that caretakers make excellent, excellent employees. You know, they're always in the caretaking business. As long as you let them run everything and be in charge of everything, and as long as you let them run your company, run things around you, do all this kind of stuff, they're always happy. But as soon as you try to interfere, control, they get upset, they get rejected, they get angry. I told you that story before. If you want to make a lot of money, you can actually start your own company. And if you start your own company, guess what? If you need 15 workers, you need only 3 caretakers. We do the work of 5 people. The only problem is, give me total control of your whole company, and I'll run it for you. I mean, good God, I did this for years at Starting Point. I was a one-man show for a long period of time until I finally got into recovery and found out it's okay to delegate. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for changes. I don't have to be in control all the time. But literally what happens then is people expect you to come through with everything. Even today, people call me up, and sometimes I think they think I walk on water. I keep telling them, I'm going to drown if I try walking on it. The bottom line is, it's almost like people think that you have the answers to everything. They don't realize the fact that you don't. And I'm learning in recovery how to finally go inside and get in touch with my feelings. And I, more than anybody else, was a clear-cut workaholic. I was in charge of everything. My God, when I was in the early priesthood, I joke about it today. I taught at Sacred Heart High School for 3 years, and I also was stationed in the parish. Because the pastor was an alcoholic, I ran the parish. I had no idea what I was doing, but I did it. I ran youth programs, all kinds of stuff at the high school. I was in charge of the cheerleaders. I coached the JV baseball team. I was in charge of the chess club and never played chess. I was involved in everything. It's almost like my head went in the door, my rear end came out the door. I didn't know what I was doing, but I got it done. Why? Because I'm a good caretaker. It's because literally, I constantly are able to function. I'm able to perform, and literally, I can always get things done. It's scary. You come right down to it. But again, I want to emphasize the point that a big piece of this also goes into relationships. It goes into compulsive overeating. It comes into our eating disorder disease. Because the bottom line underneath is, I've got a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, and I don't know about you. You try to control everything, be in charge of everything. You have a lot of fear. People are going to really find out about you. You have to live that front. It's all external, nothing internal. And caretakers, they're performers. They perform very well. And what they do extremely well. Caretakers run companies. They burn themselves into the ground doing it, but literally it becomes their identity, becomes everything to them. And as a result, then, literally, they don't realize what's really going on, and there's a grieving process going on inside of them. They're grieving the loss of their childhood, because literally, they never really had one. And as a result, then, they're also grieving the fact that I really can't be who I am, because I don't know who I am. It's really interesting. I never understood this till I got into my eating disorder recovery, how compulsive overeating was a way for me to avoid intimacy, to avoid getting too close to people. Letting people get too close to me. I had built a shell right around me, and that shell literally was who I was. And the scary part about it is, I didn't like it, but I had to do it because literally, if I stopped doing what I was doing, then people would not pay attention to me anymore. Do you ever notice sometimes when you actually start in recovery to set boundaries, people get upset at you because they expect you to be exactly what they want you to be. When you finally work on yourself and begin to grow, you realize, in fact, you can't do that. You have to say yes, you have to say no. I get it a lot right here at Starting Point. People come to me and they say, we want you for marriage counseling. And I say to them very respectfully, I don't do marriage counseling because I'm terrible at it. I don't mind doing certain types of counseling that I can do. Codependency work, stuff in that direction. But other areas of life, no. I can't. But see, the old me, when I was really into my caretaking world, I would fake it till I make it. I would say, yeah, I can do that, no problem. And go and try to find out what it is I was going to do. It's almost like I was hiding and I was running because caretakers are scared to ask what I call the most powerful question on the face of the earth. Help me. And the other thing they do is to say, I don't know. I need help. I need direction. I need guidance. Because we always think sometimes as caretakers that we have the answers to everything. In reality, we don't. And it's scary to truly get in touch with the real self. I never knew how much anger I had inside of me when I was in my eating disorder, how much stuff I was burying, so much stuff I was afraid of, until I finally began to do my work and get in touch with it. And when I lost all the weight, it actually scared me. You know why? Because now people paid attention to me. I don't want that. You know, actually females paid attention to me. That scared the hell out of me. Any kind of change scared me because I was used to being in my little cocoon, in my little world. I could function in my little world. And I can get done what I need to get done because I was in charge of everything and I could run everything. You know what that does to you? It exhausts you. It drives you down. It puts you in a hole. It makes you a very sad person. It's almost like burning yourself out is not the answer to anything. And that's where you have to open up the door and let things begin to connect. Otherwise, we get all caught up in all that craziness and all that insanity. You know, and it's interesting because even in relationships, we don't know how to have relationships. See, caretakers love what I call control ships. They're wonderful, by the way. See, me okay, you not, me take care of you. But follow my rules, don't forget. Right? Because I know what's best for you. So literally you do what I tell you to do, but don't worry. Because of my anger and frustration, I'm probably going to bitch about you, complain about you, gripe about you all day long. But don't worry, I won't do anything about it. I'll just use you as a whipping board. See, because basically, I need to be able to keep you down so I can feel okay. See, caretaking is very scary when it comes to relationships. Because literally, I always tell the story, you know, I used to go to Al-Anon meetings over at the South Philly Clubhouse on Friday nights. And this lady would come to the meetings every week. And all she did was bitch, gripe, and complain about her husband, the alcoholic. He's a bum, he's no good, he's rotten, everything in the world. Never does anything. And then after a period of time, he had the audacity to get sober. Went to a rehab. He got his act together. Then she would come to meetings and complain because he goes to too many damn AA meetings. Which meant she needs to have somebody to gripe about, complain about, blame, get up in that crazy thing. I mean, good God, I blamed people for such a long period of time. Blame my mom, blame my family. I blamed the church. I blamed all kinds of things. Because I don't want to look at me and deal with me. And my therapist used to say to me all the time, Vince, it's your problem. Not the churches, not the country, not this, not that. So much fun to be able to walk around and blame everybody else for what's going on in your life, instead of standing still and looking at it and dealing with it. So I'm learning in recovery today the value of taking responsibility for my own life, to concentrate and work on me. And by the way, that's something all of us have to invest in for the rest of our lives. You can't live your life wanting everybody around you to be happy all the time. And I'm going to tell you, they're not going to be happy all the time. They're only happy when you function for them. And the same thing, boundary setting. Many caretakers don't know how to set boundaries because we feel guilty. We go through all kinds of changes. I never forget, a lot of times in my own life, people would say to me, I want you to come and speak to my group. And I'd say, sure. And then about 3 or 4 days, my wife will tell you, 3 or 4 days before I got to speak, I say to my wife, why did I say that? I don't really want to go. I don't really want to do this. She says, well, you did it again. You did it again. You talk before you think. You got to let this thing work first, then talk. So it's all part of it. You know, even volunteering for things I couldn't do. And at the same time, making believe I could. That's the scary part. Because some of you are so afraid of rejection, you're so afraid of abandonment, you're so afraid that people will no longer like you. If your life is centralized around other people liking you because you perform for them, or because you're able to, get things done for them. The amazing part about it is caretakers don't see this, but they also get manipulated. They get taken advantage of. But at the same time, they constantly have to be in situations. There's a lot of tension, a lot of insanity, a lot of craziness. It's all part of the process they're connected to, and it's part of their life. Excuse me. I had to wet my whistle there for a minute. But the bottom line is I'm beginning to realize more and more that you have to get out of this mold. And I know what it's really all about. So many times I've shared with you during this series what I call the iceberg theory. It's that concept, again, of being frozen on the inside. There's so many things. Lack of self-esteem, lack of spirituality. Again, it's amazing how crazy we are. The people at Al-Anon in 1969 told me to work on me, that it's a full-time job. I didn't pay attention to them. I had nervous breakdown in the hospital. And once again, the doctor said, you need to look within your own self, find out who you are. And of course, I was a priest. I said, what do you mean, who am I? He said, no, not what you do. Who are you as a person? I always joked and said maybe he went to the same Al-Anon meeting. They kept saying the same thing over and over again. And they finally, from 1973 to 1986, I went right back into my caretaking mode. I ran around Atlantic City when I was stationed there, running around, organizing programs, putting things together, helped start a drug program, ran halfway houses, was back and forth in parishes, taught high school. Again, I think I had this phenomenon of being a runaway train. And the bottom line is I even started Starting Point during that period of time over in Philadelphia. It's amazing how crazy this is, what caretakers can do. I was living in New Jersey, and I started Starting Point in South Philadelphia, which meant I ran back and forth like a crazy man all the time. It's amazing you come down to it. And yet, so many times in life, yes, I probably did a lot of good, don't get me wrong. And caretakers usually do a lot of good, but they do it to the direct detriment of themselves. They lose sight of who they are. They bury stuff inside of themselves. They have a tremendous fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of loss. And yet many of us are going through a grieving process. You know, I look at my own life and I realize it was a lot of fun playing the blame game all the time. It was a lot of fun being in that world. I'd have to make a decision in that world. Once you make a decision, you make a change, then you have to become responsible. You know, I always say this, you know, literally I could do what I wanted to do when I was in the priesthood. You know, got 3 meals a day, got my bills all paid, got my schooling taken care of, didn't have any expenses at all. Even got to spend the money, a little stipend, and literally had the parish car. So I really had no great expenses and stuff to that effect. And the bottom line was when I left, the scariest thing of all, how would I function? How would I be able to support myself? How could I be able to make changes? All these fears, all these things come into play. The fear of losing control, the fear of not being in charge, the fear that you have to ask for help, guidance, and direction. All these things are things we have to look at because we can migrate towards addiction, and I can numb myself out in many different ways. I can numb it out in a relationship. I can numb it out in drugs and alcohol. I can numb it out in work. I can do all kinds of things. But always of these, what I call the nice addictions. Because again, basically, I'm in that functional stage. Even when it comes to alcohol, you know, I just have a few nips here and there, you know, basically just kind of steady my nerves, stuff to that effect. As a result, then, though, it's not who you really are. A lot of stuff is falling apart inside of you. You're a total disaster and a total mess. But to the outside world, you're Mr. Wonderful, Mr. Fantastic. You're doing everything. You know, it's all part of the process. Harry knows what I'm talking about. But it's all part of this process we're going through in life. You know, I see this over and over again. We take it into relationships. We wonder why they don't work. Because literally, I want everybody to like me. I remember when I first got married and I inherited 3 teenage stepdaughters, I wanted them to really like me. I would get up early, and when they came down the steps, I was ready. I wanted to cook breakfast for them, warm their car up, help them get their stuff together, take care of everything. And my middle stepdaughter said to my wife, "Oh God, is it going to be like this every morning? Would you tell him to shut up?" And basically, you know, I learned. My wife finally said to me, she said, "Vince, come here. Do me a favor, will you, when you get up in the morning? Go to the gym. Come back after the girls go to school. This will have peace and quiet in the house. They don't want you to do anything for them." You know, I said, "Really? Yeah, they'll like you a lot more if you go to the gym." That's how I got to going to the gym every day. It was totally amazing. I guess it was to avoid having to deal with the fact of what's really going on. A period of time, transition and change. I mean, going to the gym helped me out too because I was in my eating disorder at the time and I was working on getting better. So I was supposed to go to the gym. So it's all part of it. You know, God works in mysterious ways sometimes. But sometimes, you know, we all have this drive inside of us. You know, and being Italian, it's even worse. Really worse. Because I want everybody to like you. You want everybody to take care of everybody, take care of this, take care of that. You know, and then when people don't like you, you feel a little bit of rejection, abandonment, different types of things. When really, in reality, it's okay for them to say no. Do you ever get invited to something and you don't really want to go, but you say yes anyway? And then the day it comes on, you have to call up, and what do I got to do now? Yeah, I really would love to be at your party today. But, you know, I really got all kinds of family commitments here, all kinds of stuff going on. I really can't leave. You really have nothing really going on. You just don't want to go to the party. And you think back and you say, oh, I should have said no a long time ago. I mean, I'm talking about stuff that really drives me crazy sometimes. You know, setting a boundary, doing this kind of stuff. I just did it again. You know, I made a decision I wasn't going to do any more Matt Talbot retreats. You know, because I just did a big one. This was my last one, right? Everybody's telling me how we're going to miss you, that kind of stuff. And guess what? I just committed to do another one in April. Right after I told everybody I wasn't going to do anymore. Now that's what happens with caretakers. Because, well, one more is not too bad. My wife said, yeah, then it'll be 2 more, then maybe 3 more. She said, you're a soft touch, Vinny. You know, slow down, relax. You know, because you want people to like you. You want to, you know, okay. I fall into the traps all the time. I try my best not to fall into them, but I still fall into them. You know, even in a way of being able to, you know, earn a living and do stuff. A lot of times I never ask for my worth. This is all caretaking stuff. And caretakers love this. Because basically it means I got to learn boundary setting. I have to learn to say yes and say no. I have to learn to look at my own self and my behaviors and deal with the anger, the frustration, the hurt, the pain going on inside. I got to defrost that iceberg a little bit at a time and realize the fact that it's okay. Like that reading said today, it's okay for you to take care of yourself. That's not being selfish. That's being self-caring. It's extremely important. Open up that door. Make sure you make time for you. Make time to enjoy people around you. Make time just to relax and take it easy. Slow down. You know, my wife does this to me all the time. She says, you know, it was so nice this morning, you know, to come down the stairs and see you sitting at your chair, reading your books. You got to do that more often. No, I got to get my stuff done. I got to get to the gym. I got to get this done. I got to get that done. Why? If you don't go to the gym one day, what's going to happen? Well, nothing really happened. But in my mind, I'm letting everybody else down. Because basically, I get to see everybody at the gym. So in reality, they kind of expect you to be there. And the reality is they really don't. See, so when you look at the concept of caretaking, realize the fact that it can go into every area of our life. And what it's really all about is we have to learn how to step back, take our time, make time for ourselves. And a little bit of caretaking is okay. It means I can really give of myself to others, but to do it in a positive way for myself so I can continue to grow as a person myself. In all these different phases of addiction, whether it's isolation, fantasy, caretaking, what am I doing? I'm using the addiction as a cover, not have to look within. And the greatest thing about recovery is going inside, looking on the inside of yourself, which is extremely important. And believe me, it's not easy. Because all kinds of fears. Are they going to find out that there's things I can't do? Wow. I'm good at giving advice, by the way, because my receptionists always say to me, suppose somebody calls up and I don't know the answer. I said, tell them you don't know the answer. Take their number, go find the answer out, then call them back. Now, it's very logical, right? But when it comes to me, well, maybe I can find an answer somewhere. I got to learn to follow my own instructions, to work on my own self. And believe me, I'm better at it today because of a lot of therapy, because of recovery programs and the step work and stuff to that effect. But every day you learn something new, another thing about yourself, you discover something else about yourself, and that's okay too. You know, so you have to realize the fact that it's okay to rest. It's okay to relax. It's okay to change. It's okay to say goodbye so you can then say hello to something new. But too many times we stay stuck in the old. Why? It's comfortable there. Going into the new is uncomfortable. The new way of life is uncomfortable sometimes, but it's probably need to be able to be open to change. So keep those little things in the back of your mind. The willingness to change, the willingness to grow, the willingness to learn, the willingness to be open to experience new things in new directions, the willingness to be able to realize the fact that I am important. Who am I? What am I all about? Where am I going? And realize the most important thing in the world that we can do is open our hearts and minds to allow other people in, because we learn from them and we grow from them. So my prayer today is that we take some time just to relax, take it easy. You don't have to save the world, please. You know, you really, if you want to save the world, you better buy a big bottle of Excedrin about that big. You're going to have a lot of headaches, my friends. Leave it alone. Take it from the expert who gave it one hell of a try. Now, I have a standing joke I have. When I got ordained, I decided that I'm going to save the whole world by myself. After I was there about 5 or 6 years, I decided, well, maybe I'll just do the United States. After my nervous breakdown, I decided, well, maybe I'll just work on New Jersey. It only took me for about maybe till I was 46, 47 years old to finally realize maybe you better look in the mirror and take care of you. Oh, wow. That's scary as hell. Even looking in a mirror is scary. The bottom line is to really work on yourself, because I finally got this in my thick head. You can't give away what you don't have. You can't share what you don't have. So your experiences, your strength, and stuff to that effect are extremely important. They continue the process of your growth. And so today I just want to pray and ask God to bless us and guide us and help us on our journey. Let us pray. God, the God of my understanding, my higher power, and my divine presence, I ask that you be our guide, our strength, and our direction in all that we do. Help us to be able to look within, to see the beauty within inside of each and every one of us, to see the strength we have, and to realize how important it is to always be open to new things and new directions. We come here with a lot of gratitude, a lot of love, and a lot of humility, realizing that the more we learn about ourselves, the more we're able to live life in a simple and beautiful way. So we pray and ask you to guide us, be with us in all that we do. And we pray and we ask this in your name.